Well, why not? You should be able to tackle them, throw them down. 9 to 11 Eastern Time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. In case you missed any Tomi Lahren is Fearless, here's what you missed. Takeoff is one of at least 8 other rappers shot and killed in 2022 alone. Is it a coincidence? Well, do you see artists in other genres dropping like flies? No, the answer is no. Just weeks ago, rapper PNB Rock was fatally shot at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, for God's sake. Wavy Navy Pooh was killed in a drive-by shooting in Miami. T.Woo was shot and killed in front of his house in February. He was only 22. Rapper Snooty Wild also killed in Houston early in 2022. Rapper Trouble, you guessed it, also shot and killed. These lives lost are all horrible tragedies, but is it hard to figure out how we got here, or at least partly how we got here? Rap and hip-hop songs have a common theme: drugs, gangs, bitches, guns, and you guessed it, murder. Kill, 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 murder, 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 and we the fans eat it up. Rap it in the club, or hell, even in the car going to freaking Target on a Sunday afternoon. And we say it's just music, but is it? And I say this as a fan of rap music. You know, my friend Gianno Caldwell, a fellow Fox News contributor who lost his own teenage brother to senseless violence over the summer, shared this post yesterday, and it's powerful. Words have power. Take the words and the themes and the overarching messages in rap and hip-hop and combine it with the culture of lawlessness we have in our streets today, and you have the perfect storm. And as tragic as Takeoff's death is, let's keep in mind that most of the people who are dying, like the 14 people, including 3 children, shot on Halloween night in a drive-by shooting on Chicago's West Side, they don't get the name recognition. They are just another name, another number to add to the statistics. It's time we clean up our pop culture and our streets, because it doesn't have to be this way. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Tomi Lahren is Fearless as we break down all things 2022 midterms and more.
The Steelers were playing the Eagles, kind of a blowout game. And Tony Romo and Jim Nantz are on the call, and Romo drops Josh Heupel's name for potential NFL vacancies. OutKick 360 rolls on. Here's the quote. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel, remember he was at Central Florida when Scott Frost went undefeated, goes over here to Tennessee, brings them back now to prominence. He'll be on the radar for every NFL team after this year. Just throwing that out there for you. And then Nantz said, you must know something.
Yeah,
You've heard that before.
He had some sort of line about you must have some information on that.
Dan says, I'm looking at you, and I know you know something.
Yeah.
Who are the last couple direct from college? Kingsbury,
Matt
Rule, Urban Meyer. It's not trending well. That's not to say don't do it.
Right.
Because if you find the right guy, you're great. But Heupel still at the start of something, though if he wins the national championship this year, it'd be a great way to exit if you had an NFL dream.
He can do whatever he wants.
All right.
If you win the national title, go ahead. Just do whatever you need to do.
But
I won't be mad at all.
People being interested in him and him being interested in them are obviously two different things. Seems like a college guy to me, though his schemes certainly, take him, fiddle with him in the NFL. It would be intriguing, and that's what everybody's looking for. Some kind of clever, creative offense that's going to maximize the skills of the talent. And I don't doubt for a second that applying the kind of successful things he's done in college modified could work in the NFL. I just don't know if he aspires to do that. If he could put together the staff that could do that, if he's quite the CEO that could do that, but he's got a lot of qualities, traits that you look for in an NFL head coach.
I was listening to Jordan Rogers on an interview on our sister station in Nashville on 102.5 The Game talking about this, and he said, I do not think it translates to the NFL for this reason. His offense. Well, it's the players. If you have corners that can cover and man, then you can defend Tennessee. But their receivers are so good and the scheme is so good that you have to have, elite players on the other side. You're going to have that in the NFL. The hash is different, so that's going to change the width of the field and the spacing. But he did say one thing that would work is the tempo part of it. That there's not a ton of NFL teams. There's none that play at that hyper speed. That you could bring that to the right offense, the right quarterback, and really give teams fits in the NFL that's not ready for that type of pace. So that's one thing that would work. It doesn't feel like a fit to me with Heupel being an NFL guy. I mean, look, I'm sure if an NFL team comes to him, he's going to entertain the notion. I'll also say it's all about what the coach wants. It's not just about being a college or an NFL guy. Tennessee's going to write him a blank check. I know that gets used a lot, but with this season, if it continues down this path, let's say Tennessee goes 11-1 and either plays in a New Year's Six Sugar Bowl or goes to the college football playoff, Tennessee will be able to outpay what an NFL team would pay him to start. So I don't think money's going to be an issue.
Relatively speaking. It's not like,
this
recruiting has exhausted me.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know exactly what Josh Heupel wants ultimately. Maybe deep down he wants to challenge himself in the NFL. I don't know. I'm just telling you, Tennessee's going to do whatever they can do for Josh Heupel after this season, after this start of his tenure in Knoxville. And let me be the first to say, if something happens and Tony Romo just knows that there's one specific job that's going to go after Josh Heupel and he wants it and he's going to leave, if that day comes, Tennessee should elevate Alex Golesh as head coach. Just keep this thing rolling. I don't think you look outside of what you have there right now. Hire someone that knows the Heupel system and elevate them and see if you can keep it going with this offense. I think that's the answer for Tennessee if this happens.
Or bring Lane
We're
back.
getting way ahead of it right now.
Yeah, bring Lane back.
I realize that. I don't think Josh Heupel's going anywhere. But if Tony Romo truly knew something, I will be the first to say I am all for Tennessee elevating someone on that offensive staff to be the head coach and keeping the staff together.
Or bring Lane back.
Lane would probably entertain it.
You know what this
I'm serious.
does?
I think he would.
You know what this fits?
Tennessee.
It fits Heupel's bank account on the Rays. Because
Yeah.
if Oklahoma's not hiring, the NFL comes calling.
Those LA Chargers, they're financially solvent. They're going to bring a lot of money to the table.
Michael McKenry brings the knowledge on the World Series next. Football season is in full swing, and it's time to start cashing in on your favorite players with our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Simply pick 2 or more players and decide if they're going to score more or less than their stat projection. The more players you pick, the more you can win. Up to 10 times your money. All first-time users that deposit and use the promo code OutKick360, you receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. Entries on PrizePicks, they can be made in seconds, and they offer fast and safe withdrawals. Download it today, and don't forget to use the promo code OutKick360 for a special welcome bonus. Just like that, the second hour is here.
Just like that.
OutKick 360 from 6th and Peabody. E-Hob here in Old Smoky Moonshine getting it done. Crew is all here.
Always getting it done.
Coming up, Michael McKenry will join us in a matter of minutes. We're going to talk World Series, Astros, Phillies, and the win yesterday for Houston from the combined no-hitter and what it means now, headed back with a guarantee that the World Series will end at your home park and getting the combined no-hitter and then having your ace on the mound coming up in a swing game.
Ace is
Yeah, we'll break down Verlander
questionable.
coming up.
A questionable title for him anymore.
Unless he's playing the Yankees.
Correct. Even they, had him on the ropes a little bit.
Just quick NFL notes on injured reserve. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver with the Ravens, he's been placed on IR having foot surgery. And Michael Thomas is having toe surgery after waiting it out in New Orleans, trying to
This guy loves to
see
wait
what
it out.
happens.
Loves to wait.
Yeah, he's been placed on injured reserve. Both are done for the season. Both coaches acknowledging that they're not expected to be back this year.
That's like 3 lost years for Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Who was, as good as it got.
Yeah, top of the league.
He'd gone from a Hall of Famer to a guy sitting on the sideline watching.
He got paid, and then
That's right
a year
after
that is whenever he's gone through these injury lulls. And this is, toe
he
injury,
needs to
turf
come
toe,
back
something.
from this and become a dominant guy again, or he's an afterthought.
Yeah, and they've got Olave, who's he's great, but imagine Olave paired with Michael Thomas
That was what they were
and
thinking.
Alvin Kamara.
That's what they were thinking.
That's why you do that plus the defense, which was really good last year, and they're not this year.
That's
why
that
Peter King was
you
high
Peter
on them.
King picking you to go to the Super Bowl.
That's right. Time to talk some World Series. Michael McKenry joins us, former Major League catcher and now broadcaster. Michael, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm in West Virginia today.
Oh.
Always keep you guys on your toes of where I'll be. I'm like, where's Waldo?
God's country.
Why West Virginia?
I actually officially sent my wiring in to close on my house in Pittsburgh, and the closest local bank was in West Virginia, so I enjoyed the drive.
Fair enough.
Interesting. What do we make?
Congrats on this, by the way, on the closing.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
What do we make of a combined no-hitter? We were talking about how the general public doesn't regard it by any means as the same as a guy doing it himself, but still quite an accomplishment, especially when that team crushed you the day before.
I think the reality of it is we better get used to it with all these pitch counts and everything, the way the game's going. We're not going to see guys that, kind of grab the ball and just will not let go of it. I remember back in the day, Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, those guys would never let go of the ball if they were pitching well. They would almost argue with the manager to stay in the ball game. It's just not that way. These guys are younger. They're fighting to stay in the league, so they're not going to push back. And there's not many guys that have been around long enough to say, no, this is my game. So we're going to see a lot more of it. I think it makes it even tougher as a hitter, to be honest. If you're seeing a guy 4th time through, you may have a better chance. But yeah, when you bring in those dynamic arms and you can kind of mix and match, it makes it a little bit easier to have those no-hitters. And that's the second one the Astros have had this year. Same starter, just really impressive. First time in MLB history, which I thought was one of those like oddities. You would think after all these years that would have happened at least more than once, but the game's completely changed.
Both of these teams, Michael, have now exchanged, southpaw and then across with the right hook, and now it's like, okay, will Philly respond? Or is this now Houston retaking over the momentum of the series? How do you think this goes?
I mean, since we're Philadelphia bound right now, I feel like it's like Rocky IV. I feel like Drago just took the lead, showed off, did everything. He's got the highlight, but I feel like Philly's going to pull back. I mean, you saw him leaving early last night, kind of disgusted. That's kind of how they play. Like, we're all in, we're all out. Tonight, they have to show up. They have to push back on Verlander, him giving the bird, saying that's their native language. Everything else, they need to come out in full force tonight against that man, make him feel that pressure, and try to get that emotional side out of not just Verlander, but the Houston Astros that, we may have gotten knocked down. We grabbed the rope, pulled ourselves back up, and we're ready to go. And I think that's the kind of mentality this team has. I mean, they've taken a lot of hits. They've had a lot of ups and downs all year long. And I think there's something to be said when you're in the playoffs to go through that resiliency through the year.
We've got a good friend in Houston who said Verlander was showing him how many innings he's going to pitch.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he and Kershaw are such amazing stories as for how good they are and how ineffective they've been in the biggest games of their lives. When you look at Verlander, what's your thinking as to how he's got such a big ERA and such a lack of success in the World Series?
I think, honestly, you kind of look at what they're saying more than anything. You look at Kershaw, never really made an excuse, never said anything, wasn't mechanical, wasn't this. Verlander's done the opposite. And for me, as a guy that needed to read those guys, that's him adding pressure on himself. He wants to be the man on the stage in the arena by himself in that moment. I mean, I believe it's 2011. We're facing Verlander. I'm the second to last out in a no-hitter bid for him. Josh Harrison hits a ball up the middle. This ball's this far off the plate. The man threw his catcher under the bus, which was remarkable to me. Alex Sevilla, he said, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have thrown that pitch. I'm like, the pitch was this far off the plate. Like, it doesn't matter what you would have actually done. That's the reality. So it's one of those moments that you just have to say, go out there, do your thing. Don't make excuses. Show us what you got as soon as you walk out there. And he did say that in his last interview, which I really, really appreciate.
Do you ever become immune to boos and booing if you're playing in Philly? And if you're a Phillies player, I know you've played there quite a bit, but not as a member of the team. But I'm curious if it's just something that, it's just part of the ethos of the city. Then eventually you don't even hear it. It's like a pitch that a dog can't hear. It's just like a Philadelphia player doesn't even hear the boos anymore. Or does it always affect you?
I think it depends on how you're playing, but I always liked guys coming at me. There's a quote, critic, what is it? The man in the arena. The critic doesn't count. And that always played out in my mind. But I loved playing in Philadelphia. I loved playing in places where they got onto me. I wore my pants up most of the time. And I remember this one time, it was when I was in the minor leagues, there was this group of guys. They'd obviously been drinking, having a blast, called me Oompa Loompa. So as I was walking to the plate, and this was a long walk in the minor leagues, they're going Oompa Loompa Doopity-doo. I hit 2 homers, had 6 RBIs, and got to shove it right back in their face. And it became fun. It was like a backyard game of baseball, and that's what it's all about. If you'll play with these guys or gals that are making fun of you and doing some things, as long as they don't get really, really personal, they'll have fun with you, especially if you kind of push back.
Michael McKenry, our guest, take us in the clubhouse. How is Bryce Harper viewed across the league, player to player? I know you believe he's changed quite a bit from when he first entered the league to now, but how is he perceived by those who play the game with him?
Well, I don't think any of us can understand what it's like to be called a prodigy. Maybe not. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I've never been called a prodigy or the next coming or anything like that.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure you guys have had it in some
I'll answer all Prodigy questions from here on out. Sure.
Yeah, I figured. I saw you levitating before the show, so
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is like he had so much expectation, so much of this thing around him that no 14-year-old, 15-year-old should ever have to have. So I think he grew up in the league, which not many people do. LeBron James did. And he's this kid trying to figure it out. He's putting the weight of the world on himself. All of a sudden gets married, has kids, maybe has 1 or 2. I saw that shift in him. He became a different human being. I don't know if it was his big contract or what, or winning MVP, but you just saw this calm go over him. That intensity was still there, but he was able to kind of harness it. And the calmest man in the room is always the scariest. And he's become that calm man. He's leading by example. He's always played hard. I've always respected him as a player. Didn't know him enough as a person, especially behind the scenes, to really make any true picture of who he is. But this guy is leading a team. He's playing hurt. He's done some remarkable things this year. He probably would have been the MVP in the National League if he didn't get hurt. But you got to remember, torn UCL, had wrist surgery, came back, still's doing work, huge numbers in the playoffs. And don't be surprised tonight if he comes out and makes a bang early.
Momentum's a big thing in the playoffs, no doubt. What has sparked this for the Phillies to where they're in the mix? And not only that, they're expected. Paul and Chad both said they still think Phillies win the series. And this is a Houston franchise that's used to being in this moment.
They win tonight, they win the series. No doubt about it. I said 1-2-1 when someone asked me. I said they have to win 1 in that first series. They have to win 2 at home because they haven't lost at home. They lost last night. Now they got to have that bounce back, win tonight, and go to Houston, have that happy flight, and finish it out. And also, you hurt that big dog again, and that's going to be a big thing. So I think the reality of where Philadelphia is, it's been a while. They've kind of been out of sight, and then you see these guys showing up. Chase Utley and Rollins, those guys threw out a first pitch. The city, the alumni, everybody's backing these guys, but they're not doing it in a way that, oh, it's okay no matter what. They're leaving the park last night when they're not playing well. We have higher expectations for you guys. And that's different than our society. That's different than what we normally see. These people want a ring, and they want a ring now. They don't want to wait, but they were also crushing these guys early on in the season. Figure it out already. All this money poured into this. We need to win. Well, they're winning. They're doing some things, and they're doing it in a different way because they look like a unit that's playing together.
A lot of talk about what McCullers was and wasn't doing when he was giving up all those home runs 2 games ago. Saw some analysis about how high he was raising his glove in his motion as related to what pitch he was throwing. Is that what it was to you? Were they reading that? What was the basis of what they were discussing and what he might have been showing?
Yeah, there was something there. There's no doubt in my mind. But every single pitcher tips, especially with PitchCom. I feel like it's going to be even more evident in the long run because the laxical mindset comes in because they don't have to really do anything different. They're not shaking. They're not doing some stuff. So you'll see tempos change. You'll see McCullers, he was going over his head. One was going right in front of his head. And that's how they were doing it. But the biggest thing is when you get someone signs, right? Like Delgado, when he played, he always had a bad first half, and then he would figure out how guys tipped and have a giant second half. Daniel Murphy picked up on that trend, changed his career. So every guy tips. It's trusting what you see. And if one time it's off, it throws you off. I'll never forget, I thought a fastball was coming, and I almost fell down on that breaking ball, because my guy was like, I got him. It was right 10 times out of 10. That 11th time was that breaking ball that had me on my butt in the box.
If every pitcher tips, why is every pitcher so defiant that they don't? McCullers, as an example, was asked about it. It was very clear to anyone watching on TV. Bryce Harper calls over Bohm and says, this is what he's going to do, and he went out and did it. But McCullers says, no, we're not talking about that. Did not happen. I got whipped. End of story. No excuse. I got whipped. Is that something working with pitchers over the course of your career, Micheal, that maybe they say it publicly that way, but then go back and work on what their tips are with their catcher or what they're seeing so they can correct that? Or do they just not want to talk about it, period?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's like the bad ex-girlfriend or something you just don't want to ever talk about again. But yeah, there's a reality there. They're working on it. They're trying to figure some things out. But once again, I mean, there's guys like Randy Johnson. I was listening to the broadcast. They said Randy Johnson had tipped his entire career. Guess what? Nobody hit him because his stuff's so good. McCullers didn't have good stuff. He was leaving stuff out over the middle of the plate. So even if he was tipping, the breaking ball was playing, the fastball, and he had better command, it still wouldn't be easy to hit. It's still a major league fastball, major league off-speed pitches, and it's hard to kind of figure out that dynamic if they're hitting their spots. So the reality of it is he didn't pitch well, and he was kind of given a little bit of a gift to these guys. So yes, every guy's worried about it. It's constant. These video guys that are doing replay, they have a team around them. And as soon as whack, 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 that's the first thing they look at. What's going on? Is something happening? Is he kind of digging in his glove? Is he taking a deep breath on his fastball? And a great example is when I was in Tampa Bay, I told our pitching coach or bullpen coach at the time, I said, hey, Snell is tipping every single pitch. He goes, but nobody can hit him. Don't mess with his mind. And sometimes that's the reality. And nobody hit him all year. I think he won the Cy Young the next year.
You think there's been anything tactically here for there to be an advantage between Baker and Thompson, or because of the shape of these games outside of game one, which was a taut thriller, there hadn't been much room for anything for the managers yet, and maybe it's still to come in these final three?
Yeah, I think that usually the end of these series, that's where the manager really comes at play. They took that kid out last night that pitched so well. I mean, just remarkable numbers of his last 6 starts. And the reality of it is now he may be able to pitch, in game 7. You keep him alive in case you need him. There is some strategy going on. It's just, how can I save guys here and there? If they get a big lead today, try to save Presley, do some different things. But you want to try to set up the next game if you know this one's out of hand, and not try to claw and fight. Once you see that reality, you kind of make a shift and get ready for the next one. That's what I love about what Philadelphia said. Every single guy is like, who cares? It's only one game. We're going to wake up tomorrow, start over. Congratulations, we're part of the history books. That's what Schwarber said. I also had a little bit of language in there. It was kind of funny, but that's the reality. Like, we play so many games, it really doesn't matter. We just have to wake up and play again. This team's been resilient, and they're going to try to do it again.
Michael McKenry with us. Paul, I can't remember if it was Sunday or Monday. You sent me a link about the home plate umpire who had a 100% call rate for strikes and balls. Yeah,
he got every pitch right according to one of those websites. I think it was game 1. According
That's incredible
to
me.
Twitter thing. He didn't miss a pitch. I thought that was remarkable too.
And I don't know how you guys feel about the automated strike zone. I hate it. And the reason is I've been called out. I actually got thrown out of a game. The only game I ever got thrown out in my professional career was about balls and strikes. And it was a ball, and he made a mistake. But I became friends with that dude later on, and I actually tried to hand him my bat and said, I'll sign it for you. If you needed it that bad, that's fine, man. Whatever. And I got thrown out. But I love that element. And there are remarkable guys out there. Yes. Do guys need to get better? Do they need to have an incredibly high standard? Yes, but they do. And if you continue to, let these guys grow and mold, it'll be great. But I don't know if you've seen the new rule that they're trying in Arizona Fall League. The guys can tap their hat to challenge it. It happens in real time. It's on the scoreboard, and they show the line through StatCast of the pitch, ball, strike, or whatever. They get to take their base, or they walk back to the dugout. I think that's outstanding. One time you lose it. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of it, but that's cool to me. Don't take these human beings out of this game. Let these umpires get yelled at, spit at. I love it. I just keep it in the game, and it shows that these guys can be perfect, but they shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's
They're
like
humans.
it's like fighting in hockey, right? It doesn't need to go away.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
acceptable there, but not other sports. Like I like the home plate I like the umpires. I like the review though, because it's just as fast as tennis. Like it's immediate. You're not missing time, and it takes 5 seconds. It's not like it takes. You got to go over, put the headset on, and look around, and act like you're doing something where you're just waiting on the call. It's easy to manufacture and get that on the scoreboard.
Absolutely. And I'd love to bring fighting into baseball instead of them coming out and having a little huddle and yell at each other and hold each other back like they're going to fight. Just pick one guy, have an enforcer and just let them go at it. Winner take all, right? You get the call, whatever they're arguing, they get the cake. And I wouldn't mind seeing a power play if they did an exhibition game. How fun would that be? Guy gets in trouble, they take him out of the game. You have 2 outfielders. That'd be a blast.
From a fan's perspective, just sheerly as a spectator of these sports, there's not many sports that you couldn't institute fighting in and it wouldn't make it more enjoyable. I mean, I look around, I'm thinking, if you just had like legal fighting in every possible sport, it'd be a lot more fun to watch. There's no doubt about it. There's reasons they don't,
maybe
but
even
I would
joust.
love it.
Yeah, I would too. Absolutely.
I'm curious, like whenever there's a bench clearing brawl in Major League Baseball, do you have the same role every time you leave the bench or the dugout? Like, is there an unwritten protocol or assignment that you're doing, or are you just looking for another guy in another uniform just to go, put hands on the other uniform? Like, what's the goal there?
I'm trying to hold down my nickname. I'm trying to hold somebody back, be the fort until I get punched in the face. Then
everyone's waiting on the first punch.
You just let loose.
Yeah.
Everybody's waiting for the first punch. I've been in some brawls in the minor leagues where someone got sucker punched and got really hurt, and it was just because that guy was having a bad day. It had nothing to do with what was actually going on. And then I've seen some stuff where there's beef between the 2 guys that we don't know about. Turns out had to do with the girl usually or something.
Yeah.
It's a wild thing, and you never know what actually caused it because there's usually something in the past that kind of came to light that made the entire team go out, but those 2 guys usually aren't the guys that end up getting hurt or something bad happens to.
Yeah, and I've often wondered, like, there's got to be 1 or 2 guys on the bench or on the field that aren't involved, but the manager and everyone in the clubhouse knows those are the live wires. Like, those are the guys we've got to make sure we hold back. And I'm sure everyone has an assignment on making sure, like, those 2 guys don't get involved and ruin a week for us on a road trip.
Oh, no doubt. And also lose him, right?
Right, exactly.
He may get suspended for 2 weeks, and he's one of your better players. Yeah, there's some definite psychopaths in those clubhouses that if you snap that wire, they're coming in hot.
It's like Chad over here.
That's it. Every day.
Hold him back.
Every day.
Hold him
That's
back.
right.
I try to fight people all over this facility every day, Michael. You just got to hold me back. I joke,
that's why you're the prodigy.
I
get it
joke
now.
because I'd love to see fighting in all these sports is watching it because I'm not the one who has to fight.
Yeah, we get to watch it.
If I was playing the sport, I'd be like, oh, man, I got to go fight this guy again. Damn it.
What throw you're in.
That would be like an everyday, you're just up at dawn like, all right, who am I fighting tonight? I guess we're going to play a tennis
Sizing them
match.
up.
Yeah, got to fight Nadal tonight. You're great. Guy's got a wicked left.
You can check out Michael McKenry on social at @TheFortMcKenry. Always great, man. Look forward to this next week, and we'll be chatting about the World Series champion.
Absolutely. See you guys, and
Thank you.
It's an honor to meet you, Prodigy.
Here he is.
Anytime.
God bless you guys.
Yeah, anytime.
He's here every day.
If there want any pointers on just the unbearable weight of being a prodigy and that responsibility, I'm happy to share those insights with you.
I need it. I think it's really impressive. All you bear every day.
Yes, absolutely.
Struggle being next to him, I can tell you that.
Heavy is the crown.
We know how Bryce Harper's teammates felt.
Heavy
in
is
this
the
very
crown.
moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was in the SI Futures edition back in the day with Bryce, actually.
Faces in the
I love
crowd.
it.
Yeah, faces in the crowd. That's right. Good
Thank you,
pull,
Mike. Appreciate you, man.
All right, thank
fun
you
to
guys.
see.
God bless.
Yeah, man. There's Michael McKenry, the Fort. Love having him on each week during the Major League Baseball playoffs. And
which
of course,
Clausen was in
breaking
that?
down the
like
World Series.
Futures thing? I think it was Jimmy, right? He was the youngest
Yes.
of the Clausens.
Yes.
I remember a big deal was made about him being a part of that.
Faces in the crowd. And then you read up on them, and it's like the next day I don't remember any of them.
Well, it's funny when they have like an 8-year-old on there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go really young with the stars of their local Pop Warner or whatever it was. But I'd always the Sports Illustrated for kids back in the day.
Yes.
Like you'd get that at your elementary school. That was a favorite. I'd get them from the library at our elementary school and read them all the time.
I
with all the
dated a
kids.
girl who edited Faces in the Crowd for
Really?
a while.
Nice. Let's get her on the show and ask her nothing
Her
about
top
facing
10
the crowd.
her
Just
top
ask her
10
about
faces
dating
of the
Paul.
crowd.
Yeah. Not one question about facing the crowd, just all about Paul when we get her on. We'd like to have you on to talk about your editing days with facing the crowd, and then she comes on. So where did you go on your first date?
The first time you noticed Paul's face in the crowd, you thought what?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you where we went on our first date.
Was he nice to you?
Trying to think. I was nice to her.
Yeah, I mean, she became
I'm trying
your
to think where the
girlfriend.
first date was.
Maybe over this break you can figure it out and then come back.
We did have a
that
class
revelation.
together, and we went to the track together and rode about horse racing.
You went to the track as a date, or you just
No,
went?
we went to the
for
track on
class?
assignment.
Okay, I got you. I mean, that would be I don't know if I'm impressed or disappointed if your first date was at the track.
No, that
You're
would be a
going
good
to
first date.
Betting on the ponies?
That would be a good first date.
Saddle up.
Yeah, you could find out a lot.
Stables.
You could find out a lot about the woman you're taking out when you take her to the track.
I wish I had done that. But
Does she stay and ride the heater, or does she get out after a
Trifecta?
couple bets?
get some hot dogs.
Yeah.
Superfecta. Coming up, college football, the entertainment value this year
Up,
compared to the National Football League,
down.
it's on Saturdays. Withrow wrote about it. Chad's got details next on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out. Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing?
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day, and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But
Yeah.
Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was. and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
Right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
Live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine, OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. You can read the article now at OutKick.com. College football is lapping the NFL and entertainment value. Chad, you wrote about this. It posted earlier today, and it's time to break it down on the show. And I don't disagree with you on this, based on the quality of play we're seeing on Sundays and in prime time.
I wanted to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me in terms of what I was seeing every weekend watching college football and watching the NFL. And it really started with the games in that prime time window on the NFL were just under-delivering constantly, whereas the college game was not. In some of their biggest matchups, they were delivering. There's no real fair way to look at this, I think, other than the way that I viewed it. Because if I just said, let's take the top 10 college football games of the year and compare them to the top 10 NFL games of the year, that's not really fair for the NFL because there's so many more college football games. Same can be said for the worst games of the year, right? That wouldn't be fair to college football because there's so many more games. You're going to have more bad games also. So what I did was I took a look at the top 10 highest rated NFL games of the year and then looked at the top 10 highest rated college football games of the year. I'm going to quickly run through the top 10 NFL games. And as you're listening to this, guys, just start thinking about any real memorable moments or memories about some of these games, okay, that were the most watched.
And I'm listening for the Bills, the Bucks, and the Cowboys galore as they've started the season.
Yeah, so the Cowboys appear 4 times, and I write about this in the column. Keep in mind with some of this, those 4 games, all of them Cooper Rush appeared in. That hurts the quality of the game when Dak Prescott's out and your backup quarterback's playing. Dallas-Cincinnati is number 1 with 27.4 million viewers. That was a late afternoon CBS kickoff in week
2?
Week 2, yes. Number 2 is Green Bay, Tampa Bay, right? Makes sense. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Oh, by the way, a big part of the NFL's problem, veteran quarterbacks not being any good and on bad teams. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, chief among them. The biggest celebrities in the league, especially with Brady and Rodgers, not playing all that well. Their teams aren't really playing well. That hurts the watchability of the league. But that's the second highest rated game of the year. Buffalo and KC. Now, by the way, this is through week 6. All the data that was compiled was through week 6, so the last 2 weeks aren't on this.
Von Miller, big stops late.
Buffalo, KC, yes. That's what jumps out to you about that game. New England, Green Bay. That was Bailey Zappi entering the game. A pretty good game, though, right?
What jumps out to me about that, though, is that it's not Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that was a 27-24. I've got the score down here. Green Bay win in that one. Next is Cowboys-Rams. That was a late afternoon kickoff on Fox.
And was Dak not in that one?
He was not.
No.
And the Cowboys won 22-10.
Yeah, the Rams are awful.
Not compelling. Tampa Bay Dallas to open the year. That was a blowout for Tampa, 22-3. That's where Dak Prescott injured the hand and Cooper Rush was forced to play, and Dallas was terrible. Kansas City, Tampa Bay. That was kind of a shootout, but a little bit deceiving in that I feel like Tampa scored some late to make it closer than it was. They ended up losing by 10, but it felt like it was a bigger blowout than that.
It did feel. Yeah, it felt larger than that. Brady still threw for over 300 yards in that game. They couldn't run the football. Kansas City, I believe, was coming off their first loss to Indy, and then went to
I think that
Tampa.
sounds right.
Yeah, 41-31 though. So score-wise, a lot of offense in that game, which was not a bad thing. Dallas, Philadelphia. That was a Sunday night football game. Philly won by 9. Cooper Rush was the starter for Dallas. So
And Philly was up
great.
big, and then Dallas pulled the comeback.
Yep. The kickoff on Thursday night. I was at a Backstreet Boys concert. You guys were watching. Bills, Rams, blowout.
Disappointing.
Yeah, very disappointing. 31-10 was the final of that game. And then 10th on the list is Denver-Seattle. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle. 17-16, good game, but a low-scoring game. So the average of those 10 games that we've watched, for all the talk about quarterback, about offense, everything with the NFL, how difficult it is to stop the great offenses in the league. The great offenses in the league typically are the ones in prime windows for NFL where the national audience is watching. The average score of those 10 games, 24-16 in those games.
And there's been a lot of talk about close games, 7-point games, all of that. You're just outside that.
So college football, quickly, I'm going to go straight down the list. Tennessee, Bama, most watched game of the year. Second most watched, Bama, Texas. By the way, there's a Cowboys theme. There's a Bama theme with some of these games also in college football. Number 3, Notre Dame, Ohio State to open the season. Number 4, Ohio State, Penn State this past weekend.
That game sucked.
On Big Noon kickoff. Notre Dame, Ohio State.
No, Ohio State, Penn State. There's far too much being made out of that game. In the end, you said yesterday nothing definitive came out of it. It's like a 16-point game in the end. It was definitive.
It was good up until about 9 minutes left.
Penn State held the lead with 9 minutes
left.
left.
Yeah, it was 21-16
and
Penn
in
State.
the end,
it
was
out.
definitive.
Yeah, it fell off. But it was a good game up until that point. Number 5, Florida State, LSU on Sunday night to open the season. Number 6, A&M, Bama. 7, Penn State, Michigan on Big Noon kickoff. 8 was the Oregon-Georgia blowout.
I'm surprised that number didn't drift way away.
9, Bama, Arkansas. That was close for a while. Arkansas came all the way back, but Bama ended up winning big. And number 10, Tennessee, Florida, which was a 38-33 game. So what did I find in that? Well, there's more points, but not necessarily closer games. Averaged out top 10 most watched college football games, the average score was 36-23. So a 13-point spread. So my conclusion in all of this was my eyes aren't deceiving me necessarily, but it doesn't mean that the most watched college football games are always Tennessee-Bama and 52-49 with a last-second field goal. I really think that college football in large part is being buoyed by Tennessee with some of these games. And what I mean by that is Tennessee appears twice on this list so far. There'll be a third time because this will be the highest watched game or second highest this weekend against Georgia. And their level of entertainment, especially that Tennessee-Bama game, that is shining so bright, I think, for college football most watched games, because that was a once-in-a-10-year type classic between those two teams and on that CBS window that's going to be memorable forever.
Bama is also buoying this. The tight window games, Texas, Tennessee, A&M. They all include Alabama.
Yeah, you're right.
I think the best college games have certainly been better than the best NFL games. I'm very much an NFL guy. And just a lot of it is just the NFL, never minding the college games, the NFL product has just not been as good. And so a good football game, period, is more appealing, and the NFL has offered fewer of them.
But even when they're close games, which on paper would help out their stat here.
Yeah, which is my thing.
It's still
close
sloppy
NFL
play.
game.
The Titans can barely score 3 touchdowns right now.
Yeah.
And they have 5 wins on the season.
And I usually would trumpet a close NFL game above all else, and I've watched some close NFL games this year that just don't cut it.
I mean, last week was a prime example. No, I mean, Texans, 17-10 is the final, but it felt like it was 24-0.
Yeah, it was a brutal watch.
And the entertainment values with Josh Allen and with Patrick Mahomes, and while Mahomes is really starting to put it on. He's had 3 games of over 300 yards passing. His most recent one was like 423 yards against San Francisco's defense. And they're starting to really come together offensively after 2 losses where they couldn't score more than Josh Allen's 24 points for the Bills, and then their special teams really gave the game away against the Colts. Other than that, the entertainment value is there, and we get to see Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. My question would be, though, okay, you get Mahomes, how ugly will the Titans make this game?
It's gonna be ugly, I think, on the Titans' part. And also keep this in mind.
Even if they win,
because I was interested in this, I really believe Mahomes and Allen and those offenses are the only thing making the NFL watchable right now with these games. So I took the Chiefs and Bills games out of that list in the top 10 and did 2 different lists. The average score goes from 24-16 to 20-12. If you eliminate the three or 4 games featuring Bills or Chiefs in the top 10 most watched, that's how much they pull that down. Now, the Eagles' offense is also great, but they're not in a lot of national windows right now, or not in this top 10. But that was interesting to me. And Hutton, to your point, I don't want to make this about it's all about you just want offense, you want points, that's it. No, I want good games, but I also want well-played games.
Yeah.
I don't watch this and think, I'm a fan of a 16-13 slobber knocker, excellent defense, offense is playing well, but the defense is just so great type game. We're not seeing that as much in the NFL.
Well,
it's more about sloppy offensive play. And Paul, in a league that is designed to help the quarterback survive and thrive and to help offenses, this is a great mystery to me how defenses are so far ahead of offenses right now.
Well, also, Derrick Henry was taking some questions. Teresa Walker, the Associated Press, working on a story. Running numbers are up, which, it's been passing heavy for so long that they're fielding questions out there about run games. The Titans have been up for a long time, but other teams are starting to do what the Titans have done, part of it out of necessity. Here's the thing. Brady's down and Rodgers is down, all right? Well, we didn't expect it like that, but we knew the next generation's coming, right? And Mahomes and Allen are doing their part. You just go in the AFC, though. Tua, good, but interrupted by the concussion thing, 2.5 games. Herbert, not getting it done. His team's not getting it done. Watson's out, and we're waiting on him. Lawrence, we just talked about the other day, not getting it done. Zach Wilson, not getting it done. Russell Wilson's been his horrific play has been one of the stories of the year. Derek Carr just got shut out, and the Raiders aren't doing anything. You run through the AFC quarterbacks, and the guys that we expected to start to replace some of the stars are not showing up. The 2 top guys are tremendous in Mahomes and Allen. Who's next? Burrow, has been up and down.
Just talking about AFC
We
right
like
now?
him next. I'm just running through the AFC, which we said was going to be absolutely stacked at quarterback, and the list is 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is the story of a guy who's young,
he's
who's
very
coming
good.
out of nowhere, right? That's really stepped his game up.
But quarterback play in the NFL,
it's
which
bad.
last year
It's
we were
bad.
saying, hey, it's much better than we expected. We're not missing the generation that's starting to fade as much as we thought. Now we are.
Well, so
right now, the younger guys are not stepping up to the level that we expected.
And we would all agree the low light of the season that I talk about and write about in the column was the back-to-back Thursday night football games.
Atrocious.
12-9, 12-7.
Colts.
12-9 Colts over Broncos. That was Matt Ryan versus Russell Wilson.
Names.
2 guys who are names, who have been to Super Bowl. One of them's been to a Super Bowl. The other one's won a Super Bowl and been to another one. And they were terrible. I mean, that was a punt fest. I have the stats in there about the combined punts and turnovers and everything. And they followed that up a week later with Commanders-Bears, 12-7. A game where Carson Wentz did not throw for 100 yards. 99 yards passing, and they won 12-7 against Justin Fields, someone who could be a star in the league that's not, that hasn't emerged. To me, that is a great example of the lack of quarterback play in the NFL this year. There are guys that are capable of stepping up, and you just went through the list in the AFC. It's not bleak forever. I think it's going to course correct, and we're going to have more entertaining games. But this is the time now. College football really is starting to wind down in the month of November. You got 3 or 4 games left for everyone, and then you've got a long layoff, and it's going to be playoff or bowls for everyone. This is the NFL's prime time. They got 2 months now to make this more entertaining. Ratings aren't going anywhere. This past weekend, I looked at some numbers from week 8, as good as it's been since 2016, over the last 6 years for ratings. People are still going to watch.
We're habitual watchers.
Doesn't mean that the product's not good.
Right.
So
and it can be both.
I'd like to see it pick up.
Well, I think they can manufacture better games now because they're going to have the ability to flex these games as we get into the months
into
after
Sunday
college.
Night window. And there's some at
right
least
now
one Saturday late, maybe 2 Saturdays late, where they still haven't plugged those games in. There's one game on the Titans schedule that's not known if it's Saturday or Sunday yet.
Right now, there are some flexible games coming up. You can start doing this, I believe, in week 11. Bengals, Steelers, Colts, Cowboys, Chiefs, Broncos, Patriots, Raiders, Bucks, Cardinals. That's your Sunday night football schedule throughout here after this week.
Yep.
Well, no, 2 weeks from now.
You're going to be able to find better.
And going back to the run game discussion, like it's run games are doing better. It's not a significant jump. Last season through 8 weeks, we had 55 games of 90 or more rushing yards by one player. And this season we have 68. So 13 more instances of it through 8 weeks. Small increase, but it is an increase. And we have 24 running backs with at least 400 yards rushing. So that's compared to 19 last season. So we are seeing more of it. I also think that I think it has a lot to do with the offensive lines, too. I think the offensive lines across the league are down.
I think
for whatever
offensive lines
reason.
are at the core of a lot of this.
And because of that, teams are running it more because that's what the O-line can do instead of protect their quarterback on every down.
It's less complicated.
Although
to say,
Brady's throwing it 50 times a game, Justin Herbert's throwing it 50 times a game. I mean, look around at these pass attempts, and you'll see teams that can't run the football but really need to because their offensive line's not good
I don't think they're great run blockers either, but I think it's easier to tell a guy fire off the ball, right? And offensive linemen like to do it better,
as bad
and
as
you're
that
not going to
sounds.
get your quarterback hurt.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to lose yardage. You're gonna at least have 3rd down and 8 instead of 3rd and 12.
Bring on the punter.
I am curious, and we're going to talk about this more as we get closer to the end of the season, but with the college side of this, how much differently, and not just because we host this show in Nashville and we're around Tennessee a lot, but how much differently we would feel about the season overall if that top 4 was just the usual suspects again, and Tennessee didn't crash the party.
Oh, I've said
and TCU
didn't
crash
celebrate
whether it was Tennessee or anybody.
Yeah,
just somebody new.
Just having it out, but not just someone new, but someone scoring 50 a game.
Yeah, right.
That's on pace with the 2019 Joe Burrow LSU offense and ahead of them in many ways.
Well, I don't think it was very likely that the breakout team was going to be a defensive juggernaut. Though Georgia obviously was a defensive juggernaut, but they're not quote unquote new.
Well, I mean, what the
but
playoff
I just think
needed,
that helps our perception of the sport. That it's more fun now because of that.
Absolutely.
And we're a game away from seeing USC in the mix. Like that's another topic we had this offseason. Like, can we have the resurgence of some big-time programs that will bring back more competition to a 12-team playoff? And right now, Ole Miss against Michigan, or who would it be? It would be LSU against Michigan.
That'd be
great. Let's see it. Just start running through it. Or
that's a lot more intriguing than Titans versus Chargers,
Right.
which is a first-round playoff game right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Is it Titans Chargers? It's not Dolphins?
No, 2 versus 7 is Titans Chargers right now.
Coming up.
That the Titans are 2 tells you a lot about NFL football right now.
Yeah, they were 1 last year.
Yeah, but they were good last year. They're not good this year.
I don't know how good they were last year without Henry. I mean, they could run the football, but
They found a
Well,
way
they had him
last
back
year
in
to
the
piece it
playoffs.
together.
If they went one more game, which they should have at least gotten to the AFC Championship game, he might have gotten his sea legs. At any rate, last year's version of the Titans with Roger Saffold, with A.J. Brown was significantly
Julio
better
Jones.
than this team. So that represents that's another thing that represents what's changed in the NFL. The Titans are on the same course they were last year. They have no receivers. Their offensive line is down 2 other pieces.
That's a good
They've gotten
example.
significantly worse, and they're in the exact same position. Well, almost the exact same position they were last year.
They said, no offense, no problem. We got this, guys. We don't need to throw the ball in this league.
Coming
Just run
up, SEC schedule-wise, who's in the upset position this weekend of the non-Big 2 games? LSU, Tennessee will remove them from the upsets, and we'll take a look at the rest of the games. That's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. Here's a guy that is trying to steal a Louis Vuitton bag. And in trying to steal a Louis Vuitton bag, he knocks himself out. Let's have a look. Boom. Down. I could watch this all day. I legitimately could watch this all day. So this idiot decides, this 17-year-old decides that she is going to steal a bag. Boom. They get out. They caught the thief. I love it. I absolutely love it. Just don't beat the hell out of them, but if you do, people need to learn lessons. Do we teach lessons anymore? Can we show that whole video again? People need to learn lessons. We don't learn lessons anymore. When's the last, boom, a thief in Seattle knocks himself out while trying to escape the scene of the crime. Boom! 17 years old. Now, I don't know about you. After stealing a high-end merchandise, a 17-year-old slams into the door trying to escape. Police say the teen is part of a retail theft ring that has been busy in the area. Now, how about these idiots? After knocking himself out, the security guard is able to detain the suspect. And you know what the deal is? If you touch this idiot, it'll be your fault. Like my wife works at an Athleta store in a nice mall here. She does it because she likes the merch. She gets half off. People shoplift, you're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to do anything. Well, why not? You should be able to tackle them, throw them down. 9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. In case you missed any Tommy Lahren is Fearless, here's what you missed. Takeoff is one of at least 8 other rappers shot and killed in 2022 alone. Is it a coincidence? Well, do you see artists in other genres dropping like flies? No, the answer is no. Just weeks ago, rapper PNB Rock was fatally shot at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, for God's sake. Wavy Navy Pooh was killed in a drive-by shooting in Miami. T.Woo was shot and killed in front of his house in February. He was only 22. Rapper Snooty Wild also killed in Houston early in 2022. Rapper Trouble, you guessed it, also shot and killed. These lives lost are all horrible tragedies, but is it hard to figure out how we got here, or at least partly how we got here? Rap and hip-hop songs have a common theme: drugs, gangs, bitches, guns, and you guessed it, murder. Kill, 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 murder, 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 and we the fans eat it up. Rap it in the club, or hell, even in the car going to freaking Target on a Sunday afternoon. And we say it's just music, but is it? And I say this as a fan of rap music. You know, my friend Gianno Caldwell, a fellow Fox News contributor who lost his own teenage brother to senseless violence over the summer, shared this post yesterday, and it's powerful. Words have power. Take the words and the themes and the overarching messages in rap and hip hop and combine it with the culture of lawlessness we have in our streets today, and you have the perfect storm. And as tragic as Takeoff's death is, let's keep in mind that most of the people who are dying, like the 14 people, including 3 children, shot on Halloween night in a drive-by shooting on Chicago's West Side, they don't get the name recognition. They are just another name, another number to add to the statistics. It's time we clean up our pop culture and our streets, because it doesn't have to be this way. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Tommy Lahren is Fearless as we break down all things 2022 midterms and more.
Coming up, we've got the Vegas perception of the Southeastern Conference, top to bottom, where they would have them ranked on a neutral field. That's coming up in about 7 minutes. SEC schedule this weekend. Of course, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU host Alabama under the lights Saturday night. Beyond that, Florida visits College Station to take on Texas A&M. That's 11 a.m. kickoff. Also at 11 a.m., Kentucky on the road against Missouri. Auburn and Mississippi State will kick off at 6:30 Central Time, and Liberty visits Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks. That is a 3 o'clock Central kickoff. Of those games, of the 4 games not being played in Athens or Baton Rouge, which team is on upset alert the most in the SEC this weekend?
Well, I wanted to go with Liberty over Arkansas, but Davey talked me out of it because apparently Liberty has some quarterback issues
They're on their 4th guy.
going on. So I'm not going to go with that.
It's the biggest spread of the weekend. Liberty is getting 13.5 points.
I'm going to go with Auburn. Give me Cadillac Williams, reviving the troops a bit for Auburn. They still have decent talent. Tank Bigsby's obviously very good. I could see that. That wouldn't be the wildest thing to happen. Auburn winning a game after firing Brian Harsin and with an interim head coach.
Paul, we were discussing all offseason, can this be the year that we see progress with Vanderbilt? Can they win an SEC game?
Yeah, I'm going to take that one. I bet on them against Missouri and then watch Missouri run out to a 14-point lead and then watch Vandy come back to lose by a field goal, depressingly. And I think South Carolina's been routinely overrated or had excuses made for it. So I'll go there.
I'm going with the Gators against A&M. I like the road underdog there because A&M, a lot like Kentucky.
Pour salt into that wound of misery on A&M, Hutton. That's what'll happen if Florida goes in there and wins.
Totally
and it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. That's the other factor for me there. Morning kickoff.
A&M dead to me.
Headlines next, and SEC and Vegas pairing up on the rankings.
Football season is in full swing, and it's time to start cashing in on your favorite players with our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Simply pick 2 or more players and decide if they will score more or less than their stat projection. The more players you pick, the more you can win, up to 10 times your money. All first-time users that deposit and use promo code OutKick360 will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. Entries on PrizePicks can be made in seconds, and they offer fast and safe withdrawals. Download it today, and don't forget to use our promo code OutKick360 for a special welcome bonus.
Final hour is here. Glad you're with us on this Thursday afternoon. OutKick 360 rolls on from Nashville and across the OutKick network. Some news in the NFL just on injured reserve. Rashad Bateman, wide receiver for the Ravens, he is headed to IR, and he's done for the season, according to Jim Harbaugh. Michael Thomas, receiver for the Saints, injured reserve. Both had surgery. With Thomas, it was toe surgery, and Bateman on his foot surgery. They're out for the season. At least that's the expectation as they head to injured reserve in November.
And Schefter says that Houston, for Cooks, the receiver who was an attractive option, wanted a second and a fourth. and nobody's willing to pay a second and a fourth with $18 million of guaranteed money next year, when you've got cash price out there, then the compensation price has to come down, and Houston wasn't making that move.
And
though
now,
apparently he's not going to play tonight, is trying to force his way out of that contract, which would amount to sacrificing that guarantee.
He's not playing, and if he didn't have it in writing that he was excused, he could forfeit the $18 million guarantee lock-in for next year. Although it's I do smirk at that, knowing that they let Deshaun Watson walk around and do nothing and get paid $10 million to do so.
The initial thinking was that he was trying to force something or steer towards something like OBJ got last year in Cleveland, where he ultimately negotiated to lessen things. But then, did OBJ ultimately get traded, or did he get released?
He got released because he's a vested vet, so he didn't have to clear waivers. That's how he ended up in Los Angeles.
So Cooks could have a similar situation, right?
Yes. And then Odell Beckham Jr. is the caveat to the trade
deadline.
But
don't you have to clear waivers after the trade deadline? I think everybody has to clear waivers after the trade deadline.
Not last year. He was cut, and he signed the same week with the Rams.
That's where I'm a little confused. OBJ did great, but what I read, Florio was writing, was the risk of the waiver claim. But why was there no risk of the waiver claim for OBJ? It's a little inconsistent there.
Yeah, the Browns just let him walk. Crazy.
You don't hear about a lot of toe surgeries, by the way, when you had that update on a toe surgery?
Well, you can on turf toe.
Turf
toe can require it. Traylon Burks did not require surgery.
He's only got one more game required, but everybody's presuming, I had a conversation last night with people at my site, everybody's presuming he's back after his minimum time, which, Elijah Molden's finally making it back, but it's not after his minimum time. And, Burks, maybe he's back after his minimum time, but, also then you got a fitness question because the guy's not been able to do stuff on his toe.
We've had that question.
We've had that question with Burks.
I once broke my toe in college playing basketball on a blacktop in shoes I shouldn't have been playing in, just a running shoe. Crocs, before Crocs were
Dress
around.
shoes. He came straight from church.
Teva sandals. Don't ever play basketball in Teva sandals on a blacktop.
Kids,
that's the
you
lesson
heard it
here.
here first.
But I broke my toe, and I went to a doctor to see it, and the doctor just said, "Do you want me to put a cast on it?" Looking at me like, you bleep.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? There's nothing. That's what I'm laughing about the toe surgery.
Stay off your toe.
With turf, it's just like, you're just gonna have to let it heal. There's nothing we can do about it.
You want
very dismissive of my broken toe, though. This doctor was.
Eddie George told me what it feels like, turf toe. It's very painful. We know that, but I was like, well, that you get an injection when you're playing, right? And he's like, well, that tends to be like mentally worse because you can feel your toe like
coming back during the game.
No, like it's just limp, like it's just
rattling. It's so numb. It's just
and it's just rattling around in your foot, like slap it against your foot.
Sure.
And I was like, man, this is awful. He's like, yeah, my entire foot was taped up, trying to keep it like immobile, because if you're just walking around, you can't feel it. So you're at the mercy of whatever cleat you're wearing.
You're asking yourself, what's this appendage that keeps rubbing up against my foot? Oh, it's my big toe.
And he was like, because I said it was pain tolerance. He's like, well, it's more than that. Like if you're cutting on that foot, then it's pain tolerance. But if you're just trying to run and accelerate, it's just a weird feeling you've got to get over mentally because it's not a normal, it's not in your normal routine whatsoever.
Doesn't sound.
And then the surgery, that requires just rest after you're done.
But a long time.
Which is what Michael Thomas is doing.
Mel Kiper Jr. released his top 25 NFL draft big board, an updated one today. Be surprised to know that Will Levis has not fallen at all. He is fourth on his big board, the second quarterback to be taken. C.J. Stroud is third. Will Anderson from Alabama, number one. Jalen Carter from Georgia, two defensive linemen.
Well, he has fallen then because he was his number one quarterback previously.
And number one overall, right?
I feel like in the at least on Saturday night, they were saying he was the fourth overall prospect. So maybe this is the same as it was before. But Will Levis still the second quarterback. One spot ahead of Bryce Young, fifth overall. I'm telling you right now, if I'm a fan of an NFL team that drafts Will Levis over Bryce Young, that's in need of a quarterback.
Pitchforks and torches.
It is time to go hunt for a new GM at that point because that would be a ludicrous decision. having watched a lot of both of those quarterbacks play the position, that would be a horrendous decision.
Overthink. It's an overthink.
You want to know? So right now, should we go ahead and do this? Should I actually do this?
Do it.
Your current top 10 draft order?
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions currently hold the number 1 pick
Need a quarterback.
because the Texans tied the Colts.
Yep.
That's why Houston has the number 2 pick. They also own.
They should draft C.J. Stroud.
Both need a quarterback.
They also own the Cleveland Browns pick for the Watson trade. So that could end up being a top 5 pick. It was 2 weeks ago.
Keep going.
Now it's a number 9 overall. Here's your top 5. Detroit, Houston, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. Bottom 5, rounding out the top 10. Las Vegas, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Cleveland, Denver. So that means Philadelphia, Houston, Seattle, because those 3 teams have traded their first-round pick.
But look, if you're a team that needs a quarterback, if Levis is in fact regarded by the NFL universe as the 3rd best quarterback and high first-round worthy,
Yeah.
you can't get in to get him. If this holds, which it may well hold, Lions, Texans, Panthers all need quarterbacks. You can't get in. You're out. You're getting the 4th best quarterback.
That's got to be part of Kuiper's thinking there, Chad.
Right?
Regardless of the ranking of the guys.
You can't trade up to get in there.
Yeah.
I mean, would Vegas draft Will Levis?
I think
What's
Vegas,
Derek Carr's future?
I think McDaniels.
I just
is the
saw them
problem,
around
not-
that spot, and I'm thinking I could see Vegas drafting him
He's not better than Derek Carr.
and failing.
Well, you know who's going to draft a quarterback? Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they have no answer.
They're going to have potentially have a higher.
But
pick.
so who's
Right
the
now they're
next
7th.
guy after Levis in our estimation?
Bryce Young. Who's it? CJ?
No. Outside of these 3,
Oh,
who's the 4th quarterback?
what Van Dyke,
Van Dyke?
from Miami? Hendon Hooker. I mean, let's throw him in the mix. We're not mentioning him nearly enough for what we're seeing.
I mean, those guys are conceivably. I don't like Levis. I just don't see it.
I like some of the traits. I don't like what I've seen in games.
Yeah.
You know, too much flash and not enough consistency.
Film over.
By the way,
traits.
just real quick on Will Anderson, because I've also seen reaction like Will Anderson was the talk of college football last year. Needed to be in New York. Where has he been? Well, we didn't hear his name in Knoxville. Chad and I were like, did we even hear Will Anderson's name
Yeah,
called in
I
the
was
game?
even looking for him around Hendon Hooker at times and never saw him.
So he's 37 pressures and 9 sacks. That leads all SEC pass rushers. And, you know, there's the talk that he's just not been the same. He's the same. We just haven't seen him play Tennessee with that same level.
Yeah,
Do we see it Saturday in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, in games that not everyone's watching,
Right.
he's doing well. And, I mean, it's a difficult position to evaluate from a statistical standpoint, especially when there's an added emphasis on the other team's offense.
Yeah, his production's there.
To have a couple guys around you, right? I mean, there are teams that have specifically had to game plan against him and done a pretty good job of doing it, which helps out the rest of his defense.
Every week, Chad Withrow takes us behind a paywall, and he gives you the free analysis, courtesy of PhilStill.com. Behind the paywall.
It's our own OnlyFans
The
here on
SEC
OutKick 360.
Vegas rankings, courtesy of PhilStill.com. So Phil Still will
With
rank
Phil's permission
through Vegas every team and tell you how Vegas views every team in college football on a neutral field. And we have taken out the SEC rankings for you here, and they still love Alabama. Number 2 in this week's ranking, followed by Georgia and Tennessee. 2, 3, and 4, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. That means Ohio State remains at number 1.
We go live to Phil Steele's OnlyFans page, and we see the Vegas rankings. Yeah, this is, and you laid it out there well, Hutton. This is neutral field, neutral site, take home field out of it for these teams. Who would be favored head-to-head 1 through 131 in all of FBS? And this is the SEC, where Tennessee undervalued by Vegas as opposed to where they are in the college football playoff ranking. Obviously, they're 4th in the Vegas rankings, number 1 in the college football playoff ranking. One that really jumps out to me is Arkansas. Heavy value in Vegas for the Razorbacks, 14th, based on a team that's got 3 losses right now.
Well, another one for me. Kentucky and Missouri play this week. Kentucky is on the road at Missouri. Missouri is valued at 51 on the Vegas rankings. Kentucky is still in the 20s at 27. But, guys, Kentucky is a 1-point favorite on the road here. And 30 spots down, roughly, we've got Missouri behind them. And they've been playing in this area all season. Point being, there's a discrepancy here where, I'm sorry, but Missouri's home field advantage is not worth the discrepancy here on neutral field.
No, and you just heard Trey Wallace predict Missouri to win. I disagree. I think Kentucky is going to figure it out and start playing defense again. Missouri's defense has been wildly improved. Steve Wilkes was a disaster a year ago for Missouri. They're much, much better on defense this year. They've done a really good job, and they've done some things defensively. I still like Kentucky to win a low-scoring game in Columbia, Missouri this weekend. But keep this in mind. If Kentucky loses this game, you've got Kentucky and Missouri both at 5-4 at this point in the season. Kentucky's going in 5-3. Missouri, nice rebound from early season to get to 4-4. That's not good for Kentucky based on expectation to be tied with Missouri at 5-4 and losing to Missouri. And keep in mind, Kentucky still got to play Georgia. They're coming to Lexington in November. So that would be a tough one for them. But, yeah, that's a big separation, 27-51 in terms of Vegas ranking to be a 1-point spread.
And I'm not there yet, but I'm going to go ahead and preview where we are if Missouri wins this game. You say they still have to play Georgia. It's got to play Vandy as well, Kentucky. You're going to lose to South Carolina, Missouri. I'm going to put you in that stance, that standing.
Yeah.
Where you're playing the Commodores.
Is this the first we've seen the Commodores in double digits?
I think so.
I think so,
they
too.
got
I think they were 101st last week.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Chad. I think the Wildcats win on the road against the Tigers. But, man, if they lose, after beating Florida, you know, how the perception of Florida against Utah, and then Kentucky goes on the road and wins in Gainesville. And there's this, look at what they've done on the road. And here's the 10-win Wildcats rebound. They haven't played well, but here they are. And I know Will Levis missed the South Carolina game, but you lose to South Carolina, and you start looking around going, we're a 1-point favorite against Missouri all of a sudden after getting boat raced by Tennessee.
And you're right to say, look, if you're Kentucky, you lose 44-6 to Tennessee. If you lose at home to South Carolina. Will Levis wasn't there. I'll give you a mulligan on that one because the backup quarterback was not good.
Right.
But lose to Missouri with Will Levis, I'm with you, Hutton. I put them on high alert to lose to Vandy, too, because that's the round robin for the bottom of the SEC East at that point. Vandy, a 7-point home underdog against South Carolina, even though they are 51 spots lower than South Carolina. So the math of this interests me because that's telling you South Carolina is probably 8 or 9 points better. I'm going to give 1 or 2 points just for having to travel to Nashville. There's no atmosphere at the game, so there's not a 3-point bump for home field for Vanderbilt, but it's a 1 or 2 point bump because you're not in your friendly confines and you have to go on the road. So let's say 51 spots different from 47 to 98 equals 8 or 9 points on a neutral field, 7 points at Vanderbilt. Guys, I think Vandy's got a great shot if they play well this weekend. South Carolina showed last week. Missouri showed the route to stop them offensively with what they did defensively.
A.J. Swan's playing.
I think that Clark Lee has the defensive savvy to have a plan that's going to contain South Carolina and give them a chance in this game. If they do it, they snap a 25-game SEC losing streak.
Well, and think about what that means, though, for Shane Beamer, because he can point to wins over Kentucky and Texas A&M. And now you're looking at a loss to Vandy in this scenario.
Yeah.
That would wipe out the good. And what Shane Beamer had momentum last year in the offseason was, hey, we're making strides here.
And this idea that Rattler was going to arrive and elevate them to new levels.
I don't think they lose the game. I think it's tight. I think Vandy will play them a lot like Missouri. I don't think we're seeing the upset like that this year.
Also, there's a lot of talk going into this season and during the season. Man, the SEC East is catching the SEC West and is getting on par with them. Not according to Vegas. Well, outside of the elite at the top, Tennessee at 3 or Georgia at 3, Tennessee at 4. Look at the SEC West. So Bama 2, LSU 11, Arkansas 14, Ole Miss 15, Mississippi State 16.
And they have valued Ole Miss all year.
The state of Mississippi is 15 and 16 in that ranking before you go down to Kentucky at 27. The parity of the SEC West in that group of Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, I throw in there as well, with Alabama a step above, is still really good.
So the line for let's end on the game of the week. The line open between Georgia and Tennessee at what? Was it 11 and a half?
It depends on what you want to say it opened as, because they do a look-ahead 2-week outline before those games happened the week before, and it was 12 and a half.
Is that bettable or no?
Yes.
The look-ahead line is bettable?
So it was 12 and a half.
So that's what it opens
They do that with some huge games. They'll go 2 weeks out,
now
and it was
8.
12 and a half. It's 8 right now. I think it opened at 9.5. It's maybe moved a 1.5. Majority of the money's all on Tennessee, but the line's not moving a lot, which tells you that Vegas feels pretty good about winning a lot of money on this game because they think Georgia's going to win by more than 8.
They value
or 8.5
to the extreme.
Or whatever you got it at.
They value Georgia on a neutral field and at home, and they certainly value Alabama on a neutral field or at home because they had Bama as a 10-point favorite over Tennessee in Knoxville.
Yep.
Right as the ball was kicked off. So I can't wait to see where this poll changes if Tennessee wins over Georgia and having a win over Alabama.
I feel like LSU and Tennessee definitely cover. I mean, I would feel like they're both closer than the spread. I think Tennessee's winning outright.
I still think Alabama.
I like LSU's odds of covering a lot better than Tennessee's, and probably simply because they're at home.
But see,
and that's going to be a very tough environment. I feel like they're going to lose, but I mean, I could see losing by 10. Let's say as a 12.5 point dog. The 8, that's a funky line to mess with. Right there on the edge with Tennessee and Georgia.
I look
at
the Bama LSU game, and I think those two teams are closer to who we thought they were than what they are right now. And I say we, the collective public, we're viewing the LSU Tigers through the prism of the last 3 weeks.
Yes.
And you're looking at Alabama and what happened against Tennessee. And we're forgetting what happened 4 weeks ago
on Bama
in Baton Rouge.
You want a broader scope on Bama, on both of them. Broader scope instead of more recent.
And Tennessee played a great game. They were up 18. And my point with Alabama is,
well, in Bama, Bryce Young had their best game.
They can keep. But who's more likely to have a great game, Bryce Young or Jaden Daniels?
Yeah, Bryce Young.
My only point with that is,
but they also got played tight by Texas.
Bama and Tennessee are on par because I think both played great, and Tennessee was the one that gave them 7 points. Not the other way around. I mean, Bama had the 1 turnover on the punt, but it was at the 40. They scored 7 points defensively in the game. So I think Tennessee wins that game by 2 or 3 touchdowns if Bryce Young doesn't play out of his mind the way they played in that one.
But my point is I trust him to show up and play well.
Yes.
Last year, we were at the Alabama-LSU game in Tuscaloosa. Alabama was awful, but LSU could not move the football with Max Johnson. They were incapable of playing to a caliber of meeting the Alabama quality. And it was a punt fest for a lot of that game. And then Alabama eventually is good enough to beat you
Big part of why they
in the fourth quarter. So, yeah. And Orgeron was already out before they even made that trip. And he just finished the season. I don't know. I think they're setting us up in Vegas for that Alabama-LSU game.
Hutton, you've been strong on this all week.
I was strong on Tennessee,
You're starting
Kentucky.
to turn me on that to being a blowout for Alabama.
I'm trying not to fall into that trap. I really am. Vegas thought the over/under for wins for LSU was 7.5. So they still have them 11th though in a neutral field, but they have Alabama 2 spots ahead of Tennessee on a neutral field. That's telling me something.
Here's a stat for you.
Let's put that bank account on the line here. Let's go.
Let's all of it. Push all the
all
chips
that
in the
investment
middle.
You've been talking about.
In response to Mel Kiper having Will Levis ahead of Bryce Young, Clint Lamb, formerly of OutKick, who writes for covers Alabama, tweets. He says Will Levis has missed the same number of games due to injury over the last 2 seasons as Bryce Young. 1 game. Young has 3 interceptions this season. Levis had 3 last week against Tennessee alone.
Yep.
That's always been my issue with him is the turnovers.
Tape over traits.
But I mean, you don't have to look at tape to just look at how many how many interceptions does this guy have? And we're going to put all that on the offense or the receivers or the offensive line. At what point does Will Levis get blamed for anything by Will Levis supporters?
Apparently at no point by Mr. Kiper.
Got some interception stats for you when we come back on one big thing for every NFL game coming up for Week 9, which kicks off tonight in Houston as the Texans host the Eagles. We'll go through every game on the slate next on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But yeah. Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where, right. Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
6th and Peabody, our location. OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick network. Gentlemen, NFL Week 9 is upon us. Kicks off tonight in Houston and will end on Monday Night Football in Tampa Bay. Or, no, I take that back. It's going to end in New Orleans. Monday Night Football with the Ravens and Saints.
Better
Sunday night is in Kansas City. And in between, some decent games. You guys can be the judge. It's time for one big thing on every NFL game. Weekly note, the NFC East 23-8. The AFC East 20-7. They're combined for 43-15.
Everybody
43
else,
and 15.
crap.
But the 4 other divisions have no more than one team above 500. And, of course, the NFC South has none. A lot of bye teams this week. Browns, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, 49ers. All off this week.
Down 3 games.
Pathetic.
Tonight, Eagles at Texans. This is the Eagles. They're the largest road favorite in the history of Thursday Night Football. They're favored by 14 points on the road tonight in Houston. Jalen Hurts, quarterback's the league's only unbeaten team. He's won his last 10 starts. 10 in a row. That breaks a tie with Donovan McNabb and Carson Wentz and Norm Van Brocklin. No Brandon Cooks for Houston.
City of Philadelphia loves its Eagles. But this is a dog of a game, and the Phillies are playing a crucial World Series game. I cannot wait to see what the ratings are like between the two.
The Eagles are the hottest scoring team in the NFC. They average 28 points per game. 28 points is more than the Texans have scored in any game this season. Chargers and Falcons in Atlanta. This is the first time that Justin Herbert and Marcus Mariota have faced off in an NFL game. Of course, both started Oregon. And now, with the victory, the Falcons would climb above the 500 mark for the first time since 2017. The Chargers throw the football a lot. The Falcons are awful in the secondary. The Chargers are awful stopping the run. And the Falcons run it very well. This is an intriguing game for me.
First time over 500 since 2017 for the Falcons. That's
been
rough.
a while.
That's tough.
Weather could play a factor for the Dolphins as they travel to Chicago to face the Bears. The Dolphins don't play an opponent with a winning record until December 11th. That team is currently the Los Angeles Chargers. Their next 3 opponents are a combined 6, 15, and 1.
I like the Dolphins, and I liked them before I knew that.
And you know what they did at the trade deadline? They loaded up. They said, we're going for it. Super Bowl this year, it's going to happen. Let's make it work just like the Rams. I like that mentality, even if it doesn't work out.
Tyreek Hill
Which, let's
and
face it,
Jalen
probably
Waddle,
won't.
they have combined for 1,688 yards on the season. That's the most by a teammate duo in the first 8 games of a season in the Super Bowl era. And just Tyreek Hill, I won't even compare him to other NFL players. I'm comparing him against wide receiving cores in the league for individual teams. He has 961 yards receiving. That is more than the Falcons wide receivers combined, more than the Giants, more than the Texans, more than the Ravens, more than the Bears, more than the Titans. That's insane when you look at the numbers compared to an entire team of wide receivers. Panthers are on the road in Cincinnati. They are the Bengals, they're the 13th most points per game offense, and they're also allowing the 13th most points per game defensively. Something there has got to improve. And without Jamar Chase, can they press the issue in the passing game? Because it's a struggle right now for Mixon in the run game.
We said this last week. Carolina has a way of fixing people. I know they had a very good effort last week outside of the helmet removal. I think Cincinnati bounces back quite nicely.
Deontay Foreman, since they traded McCaffrey, 118 yards in each of the last 2 games.
Guy's a highly underrated player
he's great
who's worth
when
the $2 million.
He's replacing a star running back. I mean, anyone
That's
in the
his
league, somebody gets hurt, just pick that guy up off waivers, bring him in, and he's going to be a star.
He's beyond waivers now. He's making $2 million.
The Lions are hosting the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have a back-to-back MVP. They've got a Hall of Fame quarterback. They are dead last in the NFL on 4th down conversion rate, if you can believe that. It's crazy. And they were running the football very well against Buffalo. Jones had 143 yards. Dillon had 54 yards on 10 carries. The problem is they never, after their first possession, they went down 7-0 and the Bills didn't have to relinquish the lead. So it's hard to run the football with effective mobility and momentum if the Packers aren't able to also throw the football, and they haven't been able to do that. What do you think about this game? Lions are awful, but
yeah, I think Green Bay's gotta beat the Lions.
This is the death nail in the season of the Packers if they lose.
If they lose, we could start putting them on
over.
that board that
It's
we do
over.
Wednesdays.
We can start talking about, does Aaron Rodgers fake an injury to stop playing to get ready for his next team? And we start talking about the future of the Packers at quarterback and what's going to happen. That's how bad this loss would be already at 3-5, right? 3-5 going into this for the Packers. 3-6, it's over. And a loss to the Lions, it's over.
Jacksonville is 2-6. They are hosting the 2-5 Las Vegas Raiders. All 6 of the Jaguars' losses this season have been by 1 possession, 8 points or fewer. They're the only team with a losing record, but a positive point differential at +14. The Raiders are not pressuring the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence should have time to deliver the football. Can he make the right read and the great throw? He's going to have time here. He's not going to be running for his life. Based on the numbers, they have the 5th worst pass rush defense in the NFL. The Raiders do. So they were shut out in New Orleans. Now they're in Jacksonville.
Newsflash, what Josh McDaniels did in Denver was not a fluke. It was Josh McDaniels.
Are we overlooking another possible one-and-done coach? Maybe we'll have to get back to our
I don't
NFL.
know. Mark Davis is still paying John Gruden.
Yeah. We'll have to get back
Can't
to
pay
our
3 coaches.
The coaches in the hot seat list next week.
Last week was his
Mine may be
22nd
expanding.
loss in 29 games as a head coach. Colts are on the road in New England. Patriots have won 3 of their past 4 games, and that's after they started the season 1-3. Belichick, 25-6 against rookie quarterbacks in his career, 14-0 in Foxborough.
Remember when I covered the AFC South, the whole division, I would go to this game. This would be the biggest game I covered all year. Colts, Patriots was huge.
When it was Peyton and Brady.
Manning, Brady, how far this has fallen.
Colts have committed 16 turnovers this season. That's tied for the most in the NFL. The Patriots have recorded 16 takeaways. That's tied for the most in the NFL.
Ellinger, Mac Jones doesn't get you going like Peyton Brady, Paul? That's what you're saying?
It does not, and I think the Colts will get buried in this game defensively. I mean, I think the Patriots' defense will rule the day in this game.
I think Sam Ellinger is going to look a lot like Malik Willis did in his first start in this game against Bill Belichick game planning him with the Patriots defense.
I think it's Ellinger. Hard G.
I like to say Ellinger.
It's hard to say. I know. It's more natural.
I acknowledge that I'm saying it wrong, but for whatever reason, I always want to say Ellinger.
That's how I say it.
Ellinger.
Grable.
The Bills, their 6-1 start, the best since 1993. The Bills on the road in New York, or in New Jersey, to face the New York Jets. The Jets are 5-3, and the Bills have beaten 4 opponents that were 2021 division winners: Kansas City, Green Bay, Tennessee, Los Angeles. And here are the Jets trying to get the run game going without Breece Hall, who's on injured reserve for the rest of the season with an ACL.
They need something from their quarterback. If Zach can't contribute here, I don't think it matters how well they run. They need a well-rounded offensive performance. I doubt they get it.
Looking at the numbers here, the Bills lead the NFL in scoring defense, allowing 14 points per game.
That's my point.
They rank 2nd in scoring offense. And including the postseason, the Bills are 12-2 in their past 14 divisional games. Doesn't look great for the Jets.
They're going to drop one somewhere along the way, unexpected. I don't think this will be that one.
Vikings are in Washington. The Vikings are 6-1. Commanders have done some nice things as of late. They're now 4-4 on the season. Zadarius Smith led all players last month with 6.5 sacks in the NFC. Be on the lookout for him in this game because he's the best defensive player no one's talking about. He was a big free agent signing for Minnesota. Missed all but maybe 2 games last year in Green Bay. Back issue. Minnesota paid him, and it was a risk. So far, high reward, and Smith's playing well. Taylor Heineke is also playing well. He's filling in for Carson Wentz. He is 7-3 in his past 10 starts for Washington.
They still,
How are they 4-4?
During this 3-game stretch against mediocre teams, they haven't scored more, I think, than 17 points.
It's also Kirk Cousins' return to Washington.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you like that?
They're gonna have a big ticker tape parade for Kirk on his return. Yeah. Again, I look at the Commanders and think, how are they 500 right now?
Well, they play close games. Their games are extremely close, and they're winning about half of them. Meanwhile,
they should have beaten the damn Titans at that goal line. They had 4 chances.
So the Vikings have an NFL best 5-0 record in one-score games this season. And
you saw that coming.
They were 6-8 in one-score games in 2021. And all 4 of the Commanders' wins this season have been by 6 points or fewer. So their defense has stepped up in the closing moments in most cases, and they've secured a low-scoring game and a victory, even though it's not pretty. Late afternoon slate. Seahawks against the Cardinals. Geno Smith, 6 games this season with multiple touchdown passes. And we mentioned earlier that stat, he had 7 in his first 9 seasons combined. And he's got 6 this season.
This guy is stealing comeback player of the year away from Derrick Henry.
Kenneth Walker III, over the last 4 games, he leads all rookies with 432 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, and he also scored a touchdown in 4 of those 5 games.
All he needed to do was wait for Rashad Penny to get hurt.
Didn't take long.
Nope.
Buccaneers are hosting the Rams. 3-4 Rams, 3-5 Bucks. Like the Bucks, the Rams cannot run the football. They average 68 yards per game. That is second to last. Tampa Bay is last. They average 62 yards per game.
Many would have said preseason this would be a NFC Championship game preview. Does not have that feel to it,
feels
Chad,
like
right now.
Feels like a death match. Much
Yes.
like the
Yep.
Packers
I
losing
agree.
the Lions.
Survival
Feels like
game.
a death match. I feel like the loser of this game can start to pack it up for the golf course and no playoffs.
Which is crazy.
There is another record, or a big number for Brady to surpass in this game. He needs 164 passing yards to become the first player to reach 100,000 passing yards across the regular season and the playoffs.
And there's no guarantee he gets to that number in this game, like there used to be.
100,000?
Yep. He'll throw it 60 times if he has to.
It's a number of yards that it's hard to. You have to really make space in your brain to try to fathom the length of time you have to play and how many your seasons you compile to get to 100,000 passing
Boys,
yards.
when your car odometer gets to that number, it's a huge event in the life of your car.
That's
right?
incredible. Yeah.
Well,
I'm giving him a graphic idea for the telecast. If he gets to that, you have to have a car odometer.
You think you just kind of, if you're Brady, you just levitate off the field the moment you pass 100,000 yards and you just you ascend to heaven at that point?
I think his odometer
is about to
right
stop
now
rolling.
is surpassing about the 100,000 mark too.
Well, after recent events, he may be ready to hit 150,000
Maybe.
in his career.
That's a different odometer.
Maybe. Sunday Night Football, Titans at 5-2 against the Chiefs, who are 5-2. The Titans have the worst-ranked offense in yards per game. They average 285 yards per game. Their pass defense ranks 24th in the NFL. The 14 passing touchdowns that they have allowed ranks 26th in the NFL. And yet, they're 5-2 because they've had this stretch here where their defense and their run game has been able to put away the opponents they're facing. They have also been able to put away the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season. The Titans had 4 sacks. They had 9 quarterback hits on Mahomes last year. In the regular season, they won 27-3. The Titans did. And the Chiefs now come off a bye week. Andy Reid's very good after weeks off. I think he's 7 or 8-2 with this club. And here's Vrabel and a defensive coaching staff that knows how to defend Patrick Mahomes. The question is, can they defend the Chiefs enough to where they score 25 or less? Because it'll take 24. They can allow 24 and go to overtime. Like, that's the only way I see the Titans standing a chance in this, is keeping it below 25
Kevin
points.
Byard told me, Hut, we have to make this be played our kind of dirty defensive game.
Yeah.
If it's their kind of more finesse game, it's not going to go well. Here's the thing. If Malik Willis is playing, Titans don't have a chance to get to 24 points unless the defense scores 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And, if I had to guess right now, I think he probably is playing. Other thing is, Titans have number 1 third down defense. Chiefs have the number 1 third down offense. That should be an awesome battle there.
No doubt.
And thankfully, that's during the part of the game where we don't have to watch the Titans not throw effectively.
Well, let me take it a step further with what the Titans need to do in this game. They need a defensive touchdown to have a chance.
Yeah, or special teams.
I don't think it's just defense playing well. They're going to need a non-offensive touchdown to give themselves a chance.
They, for all the talk about how good the Titans special teams are, and the numbers this year are, they're okay. They've turned the ball over a couple times on punts, but they're okay. That's where they've got to win that area. The Chiefs handed a victory to the Colts on special teams alone. They've got to muddy the water. I'm with you and Byard on that. Finally, Monday Night Football. Ravens, Saints. 5-3 are the Baltimore Ravens. The Saints are 3-5. The Ravens just acquired Roquan Smith. He leads the NFL with 83 tackles. We said it earlier. That's a perfect brand fit. Roquan Smith to the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 13-1 all-time against NFC opponents. The Saints defense, they are allowing the 5th most points per game so far this season through 8 weeks.
It's got to be tough to prepare for teams that aren't familiar with him. That makes perfect sense. The NFC mark. Look, they're a way more talented team than the Saints right now.
You would think. But Baltimore has also slipped up a couple times where they shouldn't have, and they've held leads that they gave up.
I keep leaving them out of my conversation about the better teams in the AFC because I don't have a lot of faith in them. But, their record suggests they should be mentioned.
And they've gave up the lead to Buffalo. They gave up the lead earlier this year. Was it the Bengals?
Yeah.
No, Miami.
Well,
sorry.
They had like 3 games
Miami,
where they were up with 2 minutes left and lost.
Yep. So
they're going to be a factor.
They're going to hit a stride. I'm with you.
They're going to be a factor.
Guys, that's one big thing on every NFL game. There it is for Week 9. Coming up, we get you ready for the sports evening, and we look ahead to some of the bigger storylines to kick off the weekend. It's next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. Here's a guy that is trying to steal a Louis Vuitton bag. And in trying to steal a Louis Vuitton bag, he knocks himself out. Let's have a look. Boom. Down. I could watch this all day. I legitimately could watch this all day. So this idiot decides, this 17-year-old decides that she is going to steal a bag. Boom. They get out. They caught the thief. I love it. I absolutely love it. Just don't beat the hell out of them, but if you do, people need to learn lessons. Do we teach lessons anymore? Can we show that whole video again? People need to learn lessons. We don't learn lessons anymore. When's the last time? Boom, a thief in Seattle knocks himself out while trying to escape the scene of the crime. Boom! 17 years old. Now, I don't know about you. After stealing a high-end merchandise, a 17-year-old slams into the door trying to escape. Police say the teen is part of a retail theft ring that has been busy in the area. Now, how about these idiots? After knocking himself out, the security guard is able to detain the suspect. And you know what the deal is? If you touch this idiot, it'll be your fault. Like my wife works at an Athleta store in a nice mall here. She does it because she likes the merch. She gets half off. People shoplift. You're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to do anything. Well, why not? You should be able to tackle them, throw them down. 9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. In case you missed any Tommy Lahren is Fearless, here's what you missed. Takeoff is one of at least 8 other rappers shot and killed in 2022 alone. Is it a coincidence? Well, do you see artists in other genres dropping like flies? No, the answer is no. Just weeks ago, rapper PNB Rock was fatally shot at a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, for God's sake. Wavy Navy Pooh was killed in a drive-by shooting in Miami. T. Wu was shot and killed in front of his house in February. He was only 22. Rapper Snooty Wild also killed in Houston early in 2022. Rapper Trouble, you guessed it, also shot and killed. These lives lost are all horrible tragedies, but is it hard to figure out how we got here, or at least partly how we got here? Rap and hip-hop songs have a common theme: drugs, gangs, bitches, guns, and you guessed it, murder. Kill, 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 murder, 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 and we the fans eat it up. Rap it in the club, or hell, even in the car going to freaking Target on a Sunday afternoon. And we say it's just music, but is it? And I say this as a fan of rap music. You know, my friend Gianna Caldwell, a fellow Fox News contributor who lost his own teenage brother to senseless violence over the summer, shared this post yesterday, and it's powerful. Words have power. Take the words and the themes and the overarching messages in rap and hip-hop and combine it with the culture of lawlessness we have in our streets today, and you have the perfect storm. And as tragic as Takeoff's death is, let's keep in mind that most of the people who are dying, like the 14 people, including 3 children, shot on Halloween night in a drive-by shooting on Chicago's West Side, they don't get the name recognition. They are just another name, another number to add to the statistics. It's time we clean up our pop culture and our streets, because it doesn't have to be this way. Tune in Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Tomi Lahren is Fearless as we break down all things 2022 midterms and more.
Thursday night football tonight. The Texans hosting the Eagles. You can put a little action on this. This is one of those games you feel like you don't have to watch. You know the result, you know? At least OutKick.com/bet. That's OutKick.com/bet. You've also got the World Series tonight. Phillies and Astros. What do you guys like tonight on Texans, Eagles?
I'm a big anytime touchdown guy. I always like to play that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, Hutton, but I always feel like when it's a huge double-digit line in the NFL, typically the team that's the underdog covers. I don't think this game is particularly close, but you know what else wasn't close? Titans-Texans. Yet somehow ended up a 7-point game. It was the most lopsided 7-point win I've seen in NFL history. I'm going to take the Texans to cover the 14 tonight and A.J. Brown for the Eagles to score a touchdown, because he's been a touchdown machine so far for the Eagles.
That's a big mistake, my friend, because Malik Willis was playing in that game.
That's true.
And Jalen Hurts is going to be playing in this game.
That's true.
Eagles giving 14 and under 45 because the Texans aren't going to score at all. A.J. Brown over 67.5. That's $5. It'll get you 40.
I do think the Titans' defense is superior to the Eagles' defense, so
Superior,
maybe the
but not-
Texans will do something.
Texans are doing nothing tonight.
Double the spread tonight.
Double it?
Double it. Eagles are going to win by a massive amount.
I agree.
I'm going to look like an idiot when they lose by 30.
They're
the outlier.
They're defensively. I mean, their head coach
Said they're making no adjustment. There's very little we can do with a couple of walkthroughs.
They were barely trying to tackle Derrick Henry at times in the second half, and 4 days later, they're facing the number one team, unbeaten team in the NFL, with 3 different wide receivers that can score at any time, a backfield that's averaging like 160 yards per game rushing. I mean, I think this gets ugly. And, you know, the Texans defense is good in the red zone. The problem with that is the Eagles don't have to reach the red zone to score a touchdown on you.
They throw over the red zone.
I also like Dameon Pierce over 16.5 carries in this game. I think the line's about right because they're going to use him in the passing game too. But I think they're just going to try to run the clock and keep the score manageable going into the fourth quarter. That's what the Texans have done traditionally this season. But here is Philly where, I mean, their numbers in the second quarter alone are incredible for this offense.
They're good.
I'm doubling it. I'm taking the Eagles by 20.
I'll be flipping back and forth. Well, here's the problem. Chad, you intended to talk about this at one point. We never got to it. Here's our spot. Flipping channels tonight between the World Series and a game on Amazon Prime is hard. You have to switch source. It's not a one-button thing.
I agree.
It's a pain in the ass. And that's the downside of streaming.
You know what else I have to do every time I go to Amazon now is log in with a code.
Oh.
Because you've got kids.
Because of kids. Because of
he doesn't want his girls to be able to go
parental
over there
control. So
want.
every time I go back, I've got to. I know that it's gonna flash for a second, then it's gonna bring up a screen where I put in a code.
4 digits or
to
6?
Go watch it. 5.
Yeah. Eventually, we're going to have that fingerprint thing like we do for phones.
Yeah, let's get to it because this is a pain. And flipping back and forth between channels should be a 1 or 2 button thing.
It's very much it's a dedicated thing when you go to watch it because I'm just not flipping off of it. Like I'm not even going to something else to watch, which is good for Amazon Prime. I'm not going to watch a show I'm watching on Netflix or Apple TV.
Going between Amazon and Netflix I'm
just going to stay there, like halftime show, everything. It's just going to stay on the football game, and I'm not flipping to anything else.
Tonight, I think that, if you're interested in the baseball game, tonight I think that hurts it if the Eagles are winning big.
There is a beauty in switching back and forth between different live events that you're going to lose when you cut the cord.
But consider what we're discussing, though, just briefly. We're considering switching back and forth from a World Series game, a pivotal game,
to a blowout crap
to
NFL
Eagles,
game.
Texans, where even the Houston fans and Philly fans don't even want to. They won't be flipping channels. So I am intrigued to see the ratings here. You guys rolling with Syndergaard tonight or Verlander?
I think
I'm going to believe in Verlander again in a World Series when I see him do something.
I think the Phillies are going to win the series. I think they win tonight. I think they go up 3-2. And they're going to win in either Game 6 or Game 7.
But
I still like the Phillies.
It's a very bullpenish game on both sides.
I'll roll with you guys. OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to join the fun. And tomorrow,
what is paid attendance tonight in Houston? By the way, how bad is that going to look? It looked bad on Sunday.
It'll be awful.
It was 40% full, roughly Sunday.
I think 20? Legitimately there'll be 20.
Are we outside tomorrow?
We're outside.
The rumor true?
We're in the Beer Garden 6 and Peabody here. We're going to pregame all things college football and NFL.
Not freezing. Sunlight.
I feel like it was hot in here today.
No, today it wasn't too bad.
I feel like they did something they didn't tell us.
I feel great. See these
Thank
short
God
sleeves?
If they did.
Means I feel great.
We're back at it for the Friday edition. Hope you'll join us to get ready for a great football weekend. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network.
Do not block the box. Stay out of an intersection. But please, lock your locks. Look, they got the shot to me.